Good afternoon, students. Yes, so let us start.
When we study science, it's natural to
Sanya, a 13-year-old curious city girl stuck 13-year-old mother who facilitates them in understanding different concepts. Fair. Mummy and I have come to see his stall and his project. Will you come along? Hi, Bhaiya.
Hey Sanya,
Wow, your project has come out so beautifully, Bhaiya. This is a human brain, right?
yes, this is a model of the human brain. See, I labeled its parts too.
Yeah, and what is this? Brain cells, neurons.
Oh, here I'm showing the cells that the brain is made up of. They are called neurons.
Cells? Oh yes, the basic building blocks of life that form the organs and other parts of any living organism.
Yes, exactly.
But do you know that cells and atoms are different?
Can you guess the difference between the two?
I guess not.
Everything living or non-living in this universe is made up of atoms, even the cells.
Oh, which means that the cells must be bigger than the atoms. Can we see what cells look like?
Yes, but you need a microscope for that, as the cells are so tiny that they cannot be seen through the naked eyes. Mummy, we have a microscope here with a slide showing cells of an onion.
Awesome! Let me see. Wow! This looks like a brick wall. Friends, isn't it surprising? I could never imagine that we are made up of such tiny little components joined together. But I wonder who discovered this fact and how? Can you flip through your textbook and check? On one of the posters at Kabir's stall, Sanya observed a shoe-like structure labeled as paramecium. Look, Bhaiya, this organism looks like a shoe.
Yes, this is paramecium, a unicellular organism.
Unicellular organism?
Yes, an organism that has just one cell.
Just one cell? You mean they don't have any organs? How do they survive then?
These organisms perform all functions like capturing and digesting food, respiring, excreting through their single-celled bodies.
Oh gosh, they must be very efficient. Friends, now that you know what unicellular organisms are, can you guess what multicellular organisms will be? Can you think of any common examples? Mummy, if our bodies and organs are made up of cells that are joined together, why is it that different organs within our body look and function differently? I mean, the base component of each one of them is the same, a cell, right?
Beta, it is true that all living organisms are made up of cells, but all these cells are of different types. They do not look and act the same. For example, the shape and size of a blood cell differs from the shape and size of a brain cell.
Oh, okay. Friends, you now know that all living organisms are made up of different types of cells. Can you refer to your textbook and try to identify which types of cells are these? Mummy, I was wondering, will bigger organisms like elephant and giraffe have bigger sized cells? What do you think, friends? Mummy, there are so many different types of cells within our bodies. Do the same cells make plants?
Well, not really. Plant cells are different. Unlike animal cells, all plant cells are more or less of the same shape and size. Considering the different needs of plants than animals, plant cells have some additional structures. For example, the chloroplasts for photosynthesis and the rigid cell wall that helps the plant hold up in the absence of a skeleton. See this poster. It shows the difference between plant cells and animal cells. Can you figure out this difference?
Friends, can you help me compare the plant and animal cells shown here and chalk out the differences in this tabular format? Friends, you just listed out the components that are present in the plant and in animal cells. Can you refer to page number 93 to 96 of your textbooks and list out the functions of the following? Basic components of a cell are cell membrane, cell wall, cytoplasm, nucleus.
Let us summarize our learning. Cells are the basic building blocks of life. Cells cannot be seen through the naked eye. Unicellular organisms perform all functions like capturing and digesting food, respiring, excreting through their single-celled bodies, etc. Cells are of different shapes, sizes and types. Basic components of a cell: cell membrane, cell wall in plant cells, cytoplasm, nucleus.
Let's give ourselves an overview or synthesis of all that we've learned about plant and animal cells. And what I have over here on the left, this is supposed to be indicative of an animal cell. Animal cell. And what I have on the right, this should be indicative of a plant cell. Plant cell. So let's start with what's outside of the cell. So we see in both of them, we see the extracellular matrix. You see on this animal, or outside of this animal cell, you see all these collagen fibers and everything else. All these fibers that are holding these cells into place and allow the cells to relate to each other. And actually, depending on what's inside of it, can even help signal different things to the cells. So this is an extracellular matrix. Now, when we think about the extracellular matrix for a plant cell, we also think about some of the components that are involved in the actual cell wall. And so the cell wall is a key difference between plant and animal cells. So the cell wall is going to be in a plant cell. Animal cells don't have cell walls. Now, if we go one layer deeper, we get to the plasma membrane, the cellular membrane, and we see that that is common to both. The animal cell is going to have a plasma membrane, and the plant cell is going to have a plasma membrane. And they actually can both have tunnels from neighboring cells, or tunnels between neighboring cells. We studied that in the cell wall video for plant cells. We saw these things right over here called plasmodesmata, and we can actually see a complete one over here because I start to draw a little bit of an adjacent cell. Plasmodesmata. And in animal cells, the analog are gap junctions, which are still tunnels between adjacent cells. So gap junctions. Now, plasmodesmata are much more common to a much wider category of plant cells than gap junctions, but gap junctions can be very relevant in certain types of animal cells, in particular things like heart cell. Ancient cells know, hey, so now let's go a layer even deeper. And actually, before I do that, I want to re-emphasize this, and I do this in almost every video. All of these membranes that we draw, either the outer cellular membrane or the membranes of these organelles, these are all lipid bilayers or phospholipid bilayers that point inwards. And it keeps going. I want to make that very clear. These lipid bilayers, all of these membranes that I draw are lipid. Full justice to the complexity, just because we want to be able to have a fairly simple looking diagram. You have your microtubules. You might have intermediate filaments, and we talk about all of those things in other videos. But now let's recognize their microtubules, especially, well, in general, and especially even when we're thinking about something like mitosis. But let's see what other differences are here. Well, one big thing that you might notice is this big blue balloon egg-looking thing. And it doesn't contain these green things, it's really just behind these green things. And these tend to be associated with plant and fungal cells. This is a central vacuole. Central vacuole. And a central vacuole can store fluid, it can store enzymes, it can be viewed as a place for waste. And it actually turns out that even though they're common to plants, that depending on which plant, which cells, they can have very different roles. And I want to emphasize this. Organelles do central vacuole, it's large, it can help provide lysosome. And a lysosome could be viewed as the waste disposal of an animal cell, where it's going to have a bunch of enzymes in it so that things can kind of go in there and get broken up. It has a relatively low. It's also worth talking about the peroxisomes. Peroxisomes. So the peroxisomes, we actually see in both of them, and they're named that way because when they were first studied, they said, hey, there's something going on here where there's some oxidation reactions going on here where it seems like the final still not, we're going to show it in the plant cell. This is how they are able to create essentially a food or I guess you could say fixed carbon based on light energy. So let me see, chloroplast, right over there. We do not see that in the animal cell. Now, when we're talking about energy, we talk about the ATP factories of cells, and we find this in both of these cells, and that, of course, are the mitochondria. And we see Golgi apparatus in that cell. And that's where we package form, free, you also have free ribosomes.
So students, here mainly the difference you can see here is the cell wall in the plant cell. The lysosome is here, small vacuole-like structure which also digests the food, and also they are also called as the suicide bag, because when anything destroys here, they help. There is a digestive enzyme, or we can say the lysosomes, they are having some kind of enzymes that dissolve the cell also. Sometimes if the cell want to repair, or if the cell if it is damaged, then this lysosome help the cell to dissolve. Here you can see the difference, that is mitochondria is present here also, and in the animal cell also. Nucleus is there here also. This is the Golgi bodies, and here also the Golgi bodies are there. Only the difference is this big central vacuole. It is big in the plants. Big in the plants means, for example, this vacuole help to give the strength, or it helps to give the shape to the cell. Okay, and other factors, they are very much common. So you can see here the vacuoles are small in size, and here the vacuole is big one in the plant cell. Okay, so next here we will see the difference between the prokaryotic and eukaryotic cell. अभी prokaryotic और eukaryotic इसलिए because I have told you in the chapter microorganisms that bacteria they come under the prokaryotic cell, और बाकी बैक्टीरिया के अलावा जो जितने भी सेल है, all the other microorganisms also they come under prokaryotic cell. Only the bacteria and blue green algae come under the prokaryotic cell. Understood, students? Otherwise all the cells they come under the eukaryotic cells. So we will just see the difference.
Life as we know it at a very high level. We can categorize it as either eukaryotic, or as a eukaryote, or as a prokaryote. Prokaryotes don't have. And the most noticeable of which is a membrane-bound nucleus. So in a eukaryote, the genetic information is going to be inside a membrane-bound nucleus. So this right over here, this is the nucleus. This is the nucleus, and you have your genetic information.
So here as you see in the figure, nucleus का जो membrane होता है, nuclear membrane, that is not found here. Only genetic material आपको दिखेगा ऐसे tangled form में, and it is not covered or it is not enveloped by the that is nuclear membrane. तो ये है उसका difference between the eukaryotic cell and prokaryotic cell. Understood?
Inside it, you have your DNA. Here, for a prokaryotic cell, you're going to have your DNA, and it might be bundled up into a section of the cell. We would call that a nucleoid, but it's not membrane bound. So let me write this down. No membrane.
So this is the difference. No membrane surrounding this.
Membrane bound nucleus. But that's not the only distinction between eukaryotes and prokaryotes, although it's the one that's most noted. In fact, the word eukaryote, the karyote part, comes from the Greek for nut or kernel. So let me make the kernel. Eukaryotes with mitochondria in a eukaryotic cell, both plant and animal cells, but you won't see it in a prokaryotic cell. And there's other types of membrane-bound structures. You can see things like a Golgi apparatus, and this over here is a micrograph of a eukaryotic cell. And you see the Golgi apparatus right over here, which helps package proteins. You see a micrograph of mitochondria. This is a micrograph of the nucleus. So this right over here is the nuclear membrane, and then you see all the genetic information. It's all spread out. It's in chromatin form right over here, but you see it's especially densely packed right over here, and we've also depicted it in this right over there. So this is all the DNA in chromatin form, but this part that looks extra dense or dark in this micrograph right over there, we call that the nucleolus. We call that the nucleolus. And we now know that this is where ribosomal RNA is being produced. And ribosomal RNA, that forms part of the structure of ribosomes, which are essential in the translation, or I guess you could say the construction of proteins based on the information in mRNA. And we can go into a lot more depth in that.
So here you can see that in this structure the ribosomal part is missing. In this,
that's where that's happening, the denser part
prokaryotic
of the nucleus.
cell.
So the key distinction, eukaryotic cell, you have a membrane-bound nucleus. You have other membrane-bound structures like mitochondria. In fact, there's some theories that mitochondria first evolved.
So the main difference, students understand that, you can see here, the main difference is that the genetic material is not bounded, that is no membrane bound. Then there is an absence of these ribosomes and also the mitochondria. Other cells are also present, other organelles are also present here. Then here you can see that the nucleus, here we can see the dense one, that is called as the nucleolus. So here the nucleolus is absent, only the tangled form of DNA and RNA can be seen. So this is only for you, because again no need to more explanation again. Okay, so now this already we have seen, I think. Okay.
When we study science, it's natural to just categorize.
So students, now only the part is left is only the, we can say, the functions of different parts that already we have seen. Few parts already we have seen. The cell wall, then about the cell membrane, then the nucleus. Nucleus का भी हमने देख लिया था. That is, it controls or it is responsible for inheritance of the substances, inheritance of our characters. Characters means it comes from the parent to the offsprings. So that is main part which is done by the nucleus. न्यूक्लियस में जो क्रोमोसोम्स होते हैं वो क्या करते हैं, वो मेन कैरेक्टर्स को ट्रांसफ़र करते हैं फ्रॉम देयर पेरेंट्स टू द ऑफस्प्रिंग्स. ओके, अंडरस्टूड. देन द नेक्स्ट पार्ट इज अबाउट द, वी कैन से दिस वाज अबाउट द न्यूक्लियस. जीन्स के बारे में भी हमने देखा है. देन प्रोकैरियोटिक एंड यूकैरियोटिक already we have learned in microorganisms also. So once again the same part that we have seen in the this video, that is these microorganisms में जो देखा था, when we say prokaryotic means only the example will be all the bacteria and the blue green algae. Understood student? उसमें examples कौन से आएंगे बताओ. Yes, tell me. When we talk about the prokaryotic animals or prokaryotic organisms, what is the example? Can you tell me students? Yes, I want the answer from you. Examples कौन से रहेंगे बताओ. Students, I want the answer from you. If we are taking about the prokaryotic, तो कौन से examples है? Prokaryotic means what are the examples? Can you give me जल्दी से? Yes, चिन्मय आंसर बताओ. तन्मय या वानी? Yes, you can give the answers. Nukul. Tell me. प्रोकैरियोटिक एग्जाम्पल्स बताओ, प्रोकैरियोटिक सेल्स के एग्जाम्पल बताओ. यस, सोनू तिवारी, आफ्टर सो मेनी डेज यू हैव अराइज्ड विद द आंसर बैक्टीरिया. सो सिर्फ बैक्टीरिया नहीं है, ऑल द बैक्टीरियाज एंड ब्लू ग्रीन algae. यस भार्गव, इट इज बैक्टीरिया एंड ब्लू ग्रीन algae. बैक्टीरिया सेल नहीं, बैक्टीरियाज, बैक्टीरिया एंड ब्लू ग्रीन algae. ये सब किस में आते हैं? सोनू, अगेन यू आर रॉन्ग. यूकैरियोटिक में ब्लू ग्रीन algae नहीं आती है. ऑल द बैक्टीरियाज एंड ब्लू ग्रीन algae come under the one cell, that is prokaryotic cell. Have you understood everyone? Vani? हाँ, एग्जाम्पल्स आएंगे बैक्टीरिया और ब्लू ग्रीन algae. इज इट क्लियर? हाँ, और इसमें एग्जाम्पल्स आएंगे बाकी के सभी एनिमल्स. यूकैरियोटिक में बैक्टीरिया और ब्लू ग्रीन छोड़ के बाकी सभी एनिमल्स किस में आते हैं? दे कम अंडर द यूकैरियोटिक एनिमल्स. और डिफरेंस क्या है प्रोकैरियोटिक एनिमल्स में? व्हाट इज द डिफरेंस? यस, इट इज ऑल्सो कॉल्ड एज साइनोबैक्टीरिया. तो जो न्यूक्लियस है दैट इज नॉट बाउंडेड बाय द मेम्ब्रेन, मीन्स जो जेनेटिक मटेरियल है इट इज ओनली जस्ट टैंगल्ड एंड देयर इज नो RNA. देन सो अगेन वी कैन से दैट न्यूक्लियर मेम्ब्रेन जो है प्रोकैरियोटिक में वो नहीं है, isn't it? एंड न्यूक्लियोलस जो डार्क डेंस मेम्ब्रेन, डार्क जो पोर्शन है इनसाइड द न्यूक्लियस, दैट इज ऑल्सो लैकिंग इन द प्रोकैरियोटिक सेल. So this is the difference. So have you understood, students? So just I will share the attendance link now, and again want to tell you that students, we are having soon our second PT test, okay, periodic test, starting from 22nd September. Starting from 22nd September. और हमारे लेसन्स रहेंगे 2 से लेके 7 तक, यानी कि टोटल 6 लेसन्स. ओके, so have you understood, students? Also syllabus start revising. 6 लेसन, 2 से लेके 7 लेसन तक, starting from 2. We are not going to take first lesson because already we have completed, and so no need to take that one lesson, but we will revise from our second lesson से लेके 7 lesson तक. Okay, have you understood, students? We will soon start our revision also. Okay, so let us complete this lesson, and then again tomorrow, day after tomorrow, 2 दिन ये लेसन चलेगा, एंड देन वी विल स्टार्ट द रिविजन ऑल्सो. सो एंड 22nd से हमारा क्या होगा? सेकेंड, दैट इज PT2. ओके, हैव यू अंडरस्टूड, स्टूडेंट्स? सो इट विल बी द सेम मार्क्स, 30 मार्क्स का रहेगा, सेम टाइम, दैट इज फॉर 1 hour 15 minutes, and same blueprint will be the same. Okay, understood everyone? Clear? Okay, so thank you, students.